Hello and good evening, everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon. Welcome to another VDD episode. This time we're here in London from the SPA conference, and with me is Trond and a special guest Wim, who we picked up today. So thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
And this would be about can business, we need to switch it around maybe. Can business capabilities be used in DDD?
Yeah, that's the question I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you first elaborate? Should we share the slides?
Yeah, we could do an introduction, but probably
maybe
have
introduction.
know me. I'm Trond Hjorteland from Trond Hjorteland, pronounced in Norwegian, but Trond is fine. From Norway. I've been doing DDD for quite some time, and also SOA. And it's in that aspects of thing that I came across business capabilities. And for me, it's been a mystery what these things are for a long time. And it wasn't until actually I spoke to a colleague of mine who's been doing enterprise architecture for quite some time. I said, yeah, sure. We do this all the time. Oh, can you explain to me what they actually are? And I got some help from him. That's how we get into that later. Yes.
Yeah. If you want to do an introduction.
Yeah, so I'm Wim Heemskerk from the Netherlands, and I was at this conference. You can see where the conference, right? We're all properly labeled. Well, I got invited to sit in. I'm not sure what I'm doing here yet. I might just be the obnoxious drunk that needs to be kicked out, but we'll find out. I generally operate in the space somewhere between development, DDD, testing, so BDD stuff, and more leadership parts of Agile. Agile is my encompassing thing, I guess.
Like the Scrum.org.
Yeah. And I'm a professional Scrum trainer from Scrum.org, so I do teach some Scrum every now and then.
So be nice about Scrum.
Maybe not. Should we go to the slides and you can explain?
Yeah, we can. We can do jump right into example. Why not? This is a slide deck I've used for the presentation I've done a couple of times now.
To the entire screen.
Yeah, it's the presentation I did at Kandinsky first, and then at MUCON in London just recently.
Yeah. Share and see if.
And these are I showed a couple of examples during these presentations, but I didn't go into the details of them. But maybe we could do that now, just to make it easier for people to understand by using examples. There you go.
Here we go.
Yep.
It should work now.
And this specific example, you can just this specific example is from the as you can see it on top, the internet service provider, which is the company I'm at the moment. So this is the most recent map I made. This is just an example of a map, of course, but it's in a domain that I know fairly well by now. To the left, you see the overall view of a company. So the idea is that each of these boxes represent specific capabilities. And you begin with the top level usually. At least that's a good starting point. And you get the high level capabilities that a company have. And capability is nothing mysterious really. It's just that the company is able to do something.
So is capability a word that they use in business architecture?
Yes, they do a lot in business architecture. And as I said, enterprise architecture has included it in there. It's included in TOGAF, for example.
Oh, TOGAF, yeah.
But it goes way back. It gets introduced actually via the military with this architecture framework from the military. Her Majesty's what's called Ministry of Defense. It's from that framework. So the idea is that a company, or in this military setting, is that they have a capacity of doing something. It doesn't say how they do it. They don't just say that we are able to do this. And for business, it could be like example here is an internet service provider. You have a capability on the top, which is just corporate management. You have to keep your company running. That's basically it. So that's an internal capability or competence or capacity. You can call it different names stuff. And the ones below that is probably more customer focused or market focused, that you build accesses like the internet provider does, like networks and stuff. You deliver the services, you sell them. You gather insight from them, and you do some financing, billing, and all that.
Yeah.
And on the top, it's just delivering new services, developing new services. So on the top level, there are usually a handful. You won't even the biggest enterprises usually have a handful. And these are, you can find these usually as departments, maybe even, because the organization is often reflected by this kind of structure. But the good thing with this structure is more stable than the organization is. Organization can change, as we all know, they can change all the time. Its capabilities are the same. If the company decides to change a capability, they change their business model.
Yeah, so that reminds me of a slide from Nick Chu where he says like the problem space, the business, they change for strategic reasons, but it's relatively stable.
It is. So this is sort of the outset. When you decide to create a company, you start here. What are we going to deliver to the market? You don't start with, we're gonna have an HR department. You start with what are we delivering to the market, and then build on top of that.
Yeah,
that's basically what it is. And another interesting part is that this connects also well with, I'm not sure if you're familiar with value configurations. It's from sort of business theory. It's a business.
Maybe explain to.
Yes, I will. So I think the original value configuration that you probably all know about is value chains. Like the classic value chain, you have some materials in, you process them, create something, and sell them. That's the classic value chain. This one is an example of another way of doing this. This is called a value network. This is actually academic work done by some Norwegians at the University of Oslo, I think. So this is different because you don't sell products there. You provide services that people consume and use, and they're using them until they move on and select another company or whatever. So they are not. You're not selling them products that they keep. They're using yours. That's why you have to have this insight and deliver services, and you have to keep them up and running and all that. Right? So it's not a value chain per se, that the old type of value chains. If you go back a step, there's another example from labor and welfare, which I did when I worked at the labor and welfare administration in Oslo. You see here, you have more the same thing at the top level. You have corporate management and you have service development. It's very similar. These are sort of the basic things that a company needs. But if you look at the capabilities within that, between those two, they're very different. You have assistive, social assistance, employment assistance, you have family assistance, pension assistance, and statistics. So you see, it's a wholly different way of configuring a company on this level there.
Yeah.
And this is called a value workshop. It's like your doctor. When you go to the doctor, you together with the doctor discuss and find out what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
So it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here.
Okay.
So it's a different configuration.
So how does this? So for me, a few things pop up. I'm not sure if you already got things popping up, Wim, but for me, business capability modeling, was it called, right?
Yes. So or mapping, something like that.
Mapping, yeah. Would you do that to discover this? So how would you discover?
Yeah, the top level is a bit tricky because at least me, for example, coming in as an IT architect in a project somewhere deep in the organization, will have access to this. So doing that work.
You won't have access.
I won't have that. But
and we're talking enterprise here.
Yes, all these are examples of big enterprises. So it's tricky. Surprisingly enough, very few have these maps. They have some. Maybe they have done some value chain analysis. Yeah. So they have something along those lines, but not in this type of setup. I know the labor and welfare, they actually had an attempt of doing this. I'm not sure if they got started because you have to, on this level, you have to involve the C level. This is top level.
Yeah, I've seen one in my life. Yeah. Wim, you told me you've been dealing with a lot of banks and corporates. Have you ever seen something like this?
No, but I've not actively been looking for something like this either.
No, because the top level usually it's not so relevant for us. When we create solutions, because we are working in the quirks and the details of stuff. But this is a hierarchical model. So if you see as this illustration shows, you can break things down. If employment assistance, you can break that down further.
Yeah.
If you go back to the internet service provider, that's fresher in my mind. You can just skip forward that.
So I was going to ask a question on this one. Sure. Because one thing that does pop into my mind, especially with this one, is we in Agile we love our cross-functional teams and we love our holistic contributions to problems. Yep. And I can immediately see that when you're providing family assistance, that you would probably be providing social employment and or pension assistance to the same person. So there is Yeah, this also can be read as silos to me. So how does that work out for you?
Now, this model doesn't necessarily translate directly to your strategy and your team associations, because you could have, I think Nichun talked about this and talked about and even written some blog posts on it, that this is the fundamental building blocks, but you can decide strategically to work in a different manner.
So your organizational structure can be different.
Can be different.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be like that, because it could be different optimization. Maybe you have a very customer focus, customer obsession.
And does this then become sort of a heuristic for your organization?
Yes.
If you have a team somewhere in there that they're checking, are we properly paying attention to family assistance, social assistance, etc.?
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you move forward to the because that's close to my mind, as I said, back in one second.
Yeah.
Because here you have the self-services, like, and self-services doesn't necessarily mean there is a salesperson knocking on your door. That's outgoing sales. That's one part of it. You have incoming sales as well on the web page. Right? You offer products, they come in, they buy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an active going out. You can do commercials and stuff like that, but it's still an active part. The customer is an active part themselves. So the capabilities are very different, and they're sold by very different people normally. Different systems, different information, different processes, and everything. But it's sales. Both are sales, right? And then there's some other stuff there as well, though. But that's it. So for us, this level start creating some interest, because we have bound contexts.
Yeah. So that was the next question when we go to DDD. But before that,
Yes, sure.
before we dive into that, because I'm triggered with what you also say, Wim. How does this relate to your organizational structure? So can a team be working on self-services and deliver services at once, or do I seeing something?
No.
Wrong? So are these also team boundaries?
Yes, that can be. As I said, you could have strategic choices that twist your organization in a different manner. But I'm going to kind of skip.
Yeah.
Because there are some characteristics about these. I can actually use the example instead. There we go. You can. This is a way of documenting these. This is an example from the internet service provider. It has a name, of course, the capability, and has a description, a short description, and it's composed by these 4 elements. That's what at least it's the TOGAF uses, which is roles, processes, information, and tools. So, for example, as we said, the sales process, for example, very different from incoming sales to outbound sales. The roles are different. An active salesperson in one, another one you don't have that. The information is different, and the tools are different. Because in a sales, you probably use Salesforce or something fancy like that. In a self-servicing application, or an e-commerce application, or something like that. So it's different. Mm-hmm. But you can get into strategies there. There are, at the company I'm at, they're discussing, we want to provide the same offers that the salesperson can sell to private customers coming in incoming sales. And then you start seeing interesting conflicts between these boundaries. But then the company has made a conscious decision that they want to change how they do their work. So their capabilities change.
So I've been running a lot of big picture event storming. Mm-hmm. Would you, if people have this and people know this, would this come out of a big picture event storming?
I think it would.
Yeah.
I think it would be. I would be very interested to see if somebody did had something like this, because you can do this, as I said, top level. We normally don't do, but second level, third level, you can do it with the people we're working with and say, what sort of capabilities do we support? And then find them and building it up from bottom up, if you like. And using that to see what comes out of an event storming would be really interesting. But I think you would probably see similar things. Yeah. Like in event storming, you have this timeline, right? Mm-hmm. So if you do a big picture event storming for a company, you probably see the same value chains.
The same business capabilities.
I assume so.
Okay.
So by combining this, you can probably either say, maybe it's easier for you to find those capabilities in the event storming map, for example. Mm-hmm. That's the hypothesis I have, that it can help you in that. But you also can use, as you probably know, and also I did a session here, so use the story mapping. Same there.
Just trying to switch back.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
Don't have to log out. Mugs anyway.
It should be somewhere.
Hopefully.
No.
Thanks.
Sorry
Sorry
about that.
Any finger. Yeah. So it's exactly combining these with the other way of working, either if it's event storming or context mapping or something, because the language is also here, right? Because as I said, example with the incoming outgoing sales again. They have specific terms in these two contexts.
Yeah.
And you can find that already here, because you have already defined which people are there, which information are there, which tools they use, and then you're into this language.
Yeah. So would you say writing this up? So would you say you use TOGAF for this?
No.
Because I hear you say
TOGAF
a lot, and
no, yeah.
I'm quite hesitant to anything.
Yes, I'm not an enterprise architect, so I don't use TOGAF.
Yeah. So do you derive this, or does the enterprise architect?
The top level is probably an enterprise architect thing. Hopefully they do that, because nobody else does. Unless the C level do that themselves, and normally they don't. So that's why I have missed. I asked that big company I was at a few years ago. I asked for the same thing. Do you have a value chain analysis? Yeah, we never done that.
Yeah.
It's another company. It's weird that I don't, but I didn't. They never done it. So that is for the enterprise architect thing to do, the big high level stuff.
Yeah. And would this drive your organizational structure, do you think?
It often does.
Yeah.
Because I think I have another. Could you swap back again?
Yeah.
I have another one which is, can illustrate this. Hope it's not get lost again.
No, I hope. But let's see.
Yes.
I need to.
I can go
switch. No.
Yeah. And if you step back, there's something I mixed from Bill Pool.
For some reason it doesn't. There we go.
Can I go back now?
You can switch.
Okay. There you go.
Get back?
Yeah. Go back. Okay. Sorry, people, if you're getting nauseous, but here you go. Because this is, as I said, I nicked this from Bill Pool. I don't know why I did, but I could have created my own. But he starts with business capabilities. It goes from left to right in the level of stability. Business capabilities, or he used value analysis actually. It's the most stable. And then when you define those, you define your business processes, the big ones that goes across these capabilities. And then you set roles, capability, now your responsibilities and KPIs if you're crazy enough to have that. And then you got the organization structure. Yeah. So organization structure is a lot less stable than the business capabilities are. You can, the further to the right you get, the more change you can do as you work.
Okay.
But as I said,
so what is this? Is his tool or?
No, this is just him trying to explain why capabilities are more stable than the other ones. So this is you can imagine this is the way somebody starts a company. Yeah. You start having some ideas of the capabilities that you want to provide, and then you build on that to define a company. And say, okay, we need these processes then, and then we need these roles, and then okay, we can set this organization structure, team boundaries, and departments and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah. So this would be your start. So if you don't have this, how? So as more, you keep talking about top level, right?
Yeah, because that's usually stuff. Yeah.
So what do you do when you don't have it? I usually do big picture event storming. So would you get this? Can enterprise architect join that? And
I think that would be a really good idea.
Because how long would? Do you have any idea how long this would take if you don't have this? How long will it take to get this out?
There's probably many sessions there, because in each level probably involve different people. At the top level, you probably have C-level kind of thing. I don't want to tie, so I probably wouldn't be invited. But so that's a collaborative workshop that you do with them. Yeah. Set up a day or something. Decide what is this company. So it's a deep session on how do we do this, why are we doing this for company, and what is important for us. Yeah. The strategic thing. And then when you found those, you can dig in. Yeah. Okay, next level. Next level, then you found probably maybe a department or someone who is in charge of this specific technical capabilities, and try to break that up. And then you need to invite a next set of people.
It sounds a bit like the thing I go through with event storming. I start at the big picture, jump in, but this is a more enterprisey.
This is more approach,
it's not. You probably need.
keys and stuff. But I think you could do this.
At Explore DDD 1.5 years ago, where he did in a smaller company business canvas model. I always
That also works.
And he says I do it with
business model canvas.
Business model canvas. Thank you. Yeah. I do it with he did it with the CEO and then with the team, and through the team they found out different, more business capabilities that management didn't see.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
So how would you? Yeah, you say you're probably not invited, but do you think it will work if you invite key players from?
I think, but that's the reason why I haven't been involved in the top levels, because all these 3 examples are from huge companies, or at least the Norwegian standard. They're huge.
Yeah.
Like the welfare is like the 1,000 employees. The same with the internet service provider. So I've never been. I've been working in the lower parts of this organization all the time.
Yeah.
So I would love to do this. Combine this with event storming for smaller companies. If you can actually create the same map, it would probably be easier because the map would be less complex.
Yeah,
probably with less capabilities, or at least it wouldn't be as the hierarchy wouldn't necessarily be as deep, because in a big enterprise it would be deep.
Yeah. So the deeper you go, the more probably key players from IT.
Yes, indeed
would join.
Yeah. So I've done I've done a couple of sessions, but then on the lower levels. I did one at the internet service provider, and we did it from the IT department's perspective only. Okay. Which meant that we got a good handle, because they have worked there a long time, so we got a good handle of the company, but only the specific parts that they were involved in. So we didn't see, if we go back to the whole the top layer, I think we didn't, corporate management knew nothing about, right? We did nothing about insight. We do very little about finance, a little bit, but not much. Insight, nothing, because we didn't do that part. We wasn't involved in bill access, but so it's in an internet service provider. There's a big gap between. They often refer to this as BSS and OSS. The BSS is the business support systems. That is so the classical IT part, and OSS are the networks and building switches and all that stuff, the operational stuff. That's operational support systems. So there was a hard divide between us. So I only seen deliver services and sell services, some finance. That's it. But we did a good map on these 3 at least.
Yeah.
Which they have used and are continue using. And I suggested actually to do restructuring of their team setup based on that map, because we have a lot of problems with the teams.
So are these the different capabilities, do they have their own P&Ls also, or do you know? So I've been in big companies where I've been part of like the asset management part, which is just their own company, but it's also a business capability, I would say, asset management.
Okay.
So they structure themselves. Was that the case?
What do you call it?
So performance and loss. So they hold their own budget.
Oh yeah, sure.
Profit and loss.
Yes,
profit and loss.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm not sure which level you're gonna get at before when you meet those type of things. But as I said, the KPIs and all that stuff is coming from this.
Yeah.
So each of them should be autonomous and independent of the other ones.
Yeah. So there you already have your top.
Yes.
So that's always the case when I come into these big enterprises and I'm a part of, let's say, this business capability, and then I find like I do the workshop and the theory says you find your core domain.
Yeah.
But actually, the business capabilities by itself supporting.
Yes.
So in their domain, there isn't really.
No, actually,
is there a core domain? So now I'm switching towards maybe some more detail.
Yeah, but you're into something. Do you recognize those 3 names on the left there? This is not domain-driven design. This is enterprise architecture. They have the same structure.
Strategic isn't here, but core and supporting. I'm just missing generic for DDD.
Yeah, they have supporting for them is the generic.
Yeah.
So for them, core is supporting, and strategic is core.
Yeah. So the business capability itself is all supportive in this case. So it can be generic. And
Also, here's just an example of what the enterprise architects can use this map for. So, like for example, heat maps. And say, okay, we're good at business planning, but we're not so good at marketing. We need to improve that.
Yeah.
So that's the way you can use that. That's how enterprise architects use them, at least in a business discussions and business analysis and all that stuff. which I haven't been part of.
Yeah.
I think I list those here. There's a list of things that I've seen you can use this for. So you can skip on ahead. I can also use it for there. That's the full list. So enterprise architects usually use them on the top ones: business consulting, strategic planning, business analysis, and heat maps. That's normally what enterprise architects do. But below there's a lot of stuff that we can get involved with. Data management, which information belongs where, which data belongs where. We can use it for organizations, setting about teams. As I said, the company I'm not now, I have a suggestion for a new team setup. That is to getting away from those functional teams that we struggle with, like the front-end team and the back-end team and the database team. So we can use structure differently, like giving this cross-functional teams. And that's my suggestion, basing it on the work we have done on business capabilities. So I've introduced a sales team, I've introduced incoming sales teams.
That's the thing about also a bit what Nick comes into social technical and what Accelerate say you need to reorganize or restructure, right? And that's the fourth part here.
Exactly. So and I know Nick, I've talked to Nick a lot about this, and he's quite interested, happily. But he has some warnings though, especially when it comes to organization, because as you said earlier, you could decide to organize differently because of strategic reasons. But then it would be a conscious choice that you move away from those solid, stable things and you twist your organization. But I think if you do that, you actually change your capabilities as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, what I usually see is the question. The question I always see is, okay, we need maybe one big front end because we, as a whole company, need to look the same. Have you ever also been in the situation where we say, well, we need to have the website needs to be the same everywhere, and if they use some form of CMS, then you get some problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you been in that situation?
Yeah, at very least, it's a style guide that needs to be applied everywhere.
Yeah, I've been in a situation where they used a content management system like one.
I've been in some situations that were just breaking free of that.
Which is
just breaking free of that.
Which is good.
But it would be in those situations, like that example, it would be interesting to see, is that a constant fight then against what is basically more stable things underneath that you have to maneuver on top of these, for example, capabilities? Or is the company changing? So what's the front end is no longer just a layer, it's actually a capability on its own. I'm not sure that this is...
no, so they're more looking into, we don't have a lot of people.
Right, okay,
so we're forming by component. Because then the rest we can outsource, and then we focus on that component where we have 5 teams who's provisioning for 5 business capabilities, so to say, right?
Okay.
But they're not big, but they have 5 business capabilities, and the IT isn't big, so they have 5 people for their front-end team, and they bought that CMS system.
Yeah, but I think this is going to be a tension here then, at least, because
that's always a tension.
Yeah, and we have the same thing in domain design when you have something working across boundary context. It's the same thing, right? When you have this big monolith or whatever it is that crosses boundary context, there's always going to be a tension there. Yeah, and it's an interest and conflict of interest and whatnot.
Yeah.
But also the one that I've been focusing on these talks have been a technical design part. You can use it for your service orientation. That's my entry into business capabilities, was coming from service orientation as SOA. Services as they are called today.
Yeah, because can business capabilities be useful for DDD? So would this relate to already on the upper level the bigger boundaries, and then you slice in and it each becomes more of an emergent boundaries? That's what you're saying?
Well, that's sort of I had some thoughts about this lately, because this is, as I said earlier, this is strictly hierarchical. You can't break it down like you.
So at some point you come at 3-4 levels. Yeah. So would you have one bounded context crossing several of these lower business capabilities?
I don't think that would be a good idea. But that's what I kind of see with domain design. I don't see that hierarchy in domain design when it comes to bounded context. Maybe there are just many smaller sort of because example is the sales thing. I'll come back to that because it's been one I've been working on. But incoming sales and outgoing sales, 2 different contexts, but they are quite low level in this hierarchy, at least.
So what would happen if you were to cross a couple of those boundaries within a team, within a lower level? What are you afraid of running into?
Yeah, that is a good question, and also one that I haven't got a good answer for. But I can't imagine they're not paying attention there, because there are stakeholders on these different kind of contexts, and maybe your team serves both. And I don't know. It's
but you have a value chain and across a couple of these bounded contexts, right?
Yes, the value chain. I'm glad you brought that up, because I said on the top level there is a value chain or a value network or whatever you want to call it in the company, and that cuts across these capabilities. Yes, but when you got into each capability, there are processes that these supports. Like for again, sorry for going back to the same example all the time, but the sales process is very different from the e-commerce process. They are different processes that they belong in distinctly in different capabilities.
Yeah, and I guess they impact each other or not?
Well, in the company I'm at, they don't. They specifically.
No, I mean the bounded context and the business capability can impact maybe each other.
I think they should overlap. Ideally, I think they should be the same,
like
just different names.
Yeah, bounded context should be solution space and business capability problem space.
Correct.
But I sometimes come to a point where I say, well, and I think Nick talked about this too, where you have product, which I see business capabilities of product.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to do something like each of these business capability needs to implement something like user registration or authentication. So you don't want each business capability to implement their own. Yeah. So would you create a new business capability out of that?
That sounds like a business capability.
But that's still a business capability.
Yes, I think it is. It sounds
only it doesn't have you don't sell it to a customer, it's just a supportive.
Yeah, so
in this case, supportive.
Yes, because
these supporters in this.
Yes, because everything has to belong into a capability. There's nothing left out. Okay. When you create this map, everything must be inside somewhere.
So you call everything a business capability?
Yes, even if it's internal supporting.
We had finance in one of the earlier examples. You wouldn't sell your finance to a customer. It's already a support function.
So you have the internal company.
Yes. So everything that needs to get this company running is in here.
Yeah. So it can make a bit more clear, because what I usually find out is that people come up at a lower level to a new business capability like this, right? And then they don't get a proper product owner on it, right? So it's just somewhere in it. We just put it in a team, and that team does authentication. Yeah. Did you ever see this happening?
Well, I was talking with the word product out. It's a component. Well, if I can share a little bit what's going on in my mind.
Yeah, sure.
So what I'm thinking of is I love my cross-functional teams, right? And they would cross a number of these business capabilities, and they would form a team. But the first thing,
okay.
Should be back online.
Awesome.
Okay. Yep. Sorry about that interruption.
Yeah.
We are experiencing technical difficulties.
Yeah. But we're back.
Yeah.
So you were talking about your cross-functional teams.
So if we put up a cross-functional team, the first thing I notice is that we really love our wanting to focus on.
Yeah.
So then we're starting to focus on the value chain pretty much, on the product we want, our service we want out in the market. And we forget about all the stuff that you just talked about.
Yeah.
And that's also why I think having this modeling and having these techniques handy is really valuable, because it helps us support these things that if we pivot, we tend to forget about first.
Yes, we do.
So that's what I'm thinking of. Like, hey, if we do pivot and we do cross across all these things, and maybe that's something you're still a little scared of, and you're going to tell a little bit more about, then this is what's going to keep us grounded and be our heuristic, as we called it earlier, that we're not forgetting important areas that would before that have this very siloed in department that would at least make sure we wouldn't forget, because there would be no way around them. And now there's all the space to go around them if we go to one cross-functional value chain team, and all the risk of actually going around things that we shouldn't go around.
Yeah, exactly.
So with your cross-functional value team, if you look at DDD, my prime heuristic is a bounded context can only have one team, not two. So would that still be the case in what you just described? Right?
Not entirely sure what the heuristic means at this point. What do you mean when you say a bounded context can only have one team?
So a bounded context, which is a boundary in language and a purpose for something. So let's say, easy example, messaging. So internal messaging for customers. Only one team can work on that one. So one team is owner, and one team will work on that part. Because if you have multiple teams working on that, your language will get in flux. Because you have Conway's law, perhaps, but you can also have two teams sitting on the opposite side and using different languages. So that simples into that bounded context. So I'm really interested.
So this is to me, this is pretty much the eternal struggle we face with our choices that we make or do not make in Agile. So we have these departments, and because they're doing the same thing, messaging, they can set up their nice bounded context around them, and they have a relatively easy time speaking the same language, but a relatively hard time crossing the boundary.
Well, do you mean messaging is for each of these products?
Well, it was your example, so you tell me what you mean.
Maybe
messaging. Internal messaging is
internal messaging. So multiple, you have multiple business capabilities.
So let's say we have insurance, we have
use those examples.
we have multiple insurance products.
Right.
I think you have 5 or 6, and each of these use the internal messaging system. So you have 5 business capabilities, but you also have the messaging business capabilities. So the eternal struggle always is like, this is a supporting role. Everyone uses it, so that's why no one is owner of it, right? And if you're not careful and you put all the teams on it using that same code base, it will get, how do you say it? Influx the language. So at some point, nobody knows. It will.
Yeah, but to me, you're also teasing out the need for a conversation that you're otherwise hiding behind curtains between the departments. And that is interesting to me as well. That you're forcing yourself into that situation where you're saying, okay, we have these 5 people using this, and let's assume that messaging is somehow something that they all want to influence the features of. They want different things from messaging. They all want to influence what messaging actually is.
You get the eternal struggle of team A or capability A wants this from messaging, so they put it in, and then TB say, oh, that's fine, I needed that too. But I'm not going to pay it. We all need to pay it. You get these internal politics. So I think
that's yet another part. The payment and politics, but the flux in the language is the first one, I guess.
So what I usually want to see is that messaging capability would be owned by one team.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm not completely. I don't know your context, of course, but I'm not completely convinced that messaging is a capability on its own. It could just be an engine, for example. It's a messaging engine.
Sure. Well, okay.
So it's
let's
shared
do something.
shared library. Or something.
So I've seen internal mailbox, right? So every customer, everything you did with a customer in relation to messaging, so email or phone conversation will be there. But each of these 5 capabilities need this because we need to have one place to see where we dealt with the customer.
Okay, it's like a customer log and something.
Something like that. Okay. So customer communication. So what. So the customer can see their new messages.
So my first question is, assuming that we make it one team, is who sort of owns that?
Yeah. Well, that's the point, right? And what I usually see is that some generic team, maybe an IT for IT team, sometimes
platform team or something.
Platform team takes ownership of it, but then it gets lost into the 10 other purposes that team has.
Yeah, so then that team owns 10 things, of which this is just one.
Yeah, but
so that's not great.
So they own 10 things, but they only own those 10 things, right?
Yeah, but
no one
my
else.
other question is, these teams tend to take on too much an agenda of their own that comes from somewhere out of the hierarchy and their own goals, etc. This works relatively well if this team believes that they're really in service of the other 5 teams.
Mhm.
It means that they somehow need to balance any conflicting needs the other 5 teams have.
Yeah.
But if they're really in service of the other 5 teams, that generally works relatively well. And you have to do it every now and then. I mean, I don't want too many of these things, but you also don't want the range that the one team has to spend to go on forever and then purposely moving outside the screen here.
So you would say one of the nice one. You would say one of these business capabilities will take ownership together on that team then? That was...
I would really like that one messaging team that you would want to feel that it is owned equally or more or less equally by its 5 main stakeholders, which are these 5 things. It would really take a supportive place in the hike. You have these 5 themes here, and then that supportive thing.
That could work, and within strategy, it's a shared kernel, because, well, maybe not even a shared kernel.
No, it's a shared library, shared system, or you could use like an open source mind.
Yeah, but there needs to be several good agreements between the teams, so you need to work on that, right? Which, from an agile perspective and from a communication perspective, is a lot better. I agree.
But I want to go back to the agile again. I'm really happy that you're here, because the cross-functional teams, I have a strong belief in those, and I think capabilities enable us to set those teams.
And cross-functional is several business capabilities.
No, that's the thing. Cross-functional team here is within a capability. Cross-functional is actually it's not web, it's not middle layer, it's not and it's not testers, and they're all in the same thing. Yes, you have all the people you need in your squad or team to deliver that capability.
Yeah,
and it could be testers, it could be UX people, it could be business people, it could be like so. Business capabilities support the whole idea between product teams.
But if I say correctly, you're saying a cross-functional team owns several.
Well, yeah, I guess the point of view that I have, and I suppose I can only have the point of view wearing this Scrum.org t-shirt at this point, is that the cross-functional team needs to deliver a product or service, an actual increment, not just a business capability. And that probably means that it's likely to cross some of these
it would be. So
that's what we are saying.
I think we're talking
DDD
about something.
Yeah, we want to be just one-on-one to the customer. Is that what you're saying? Well, so you want to have a product that a customer uses, and we want to get feedback from it.
Yeah, and earlier on the capabilities you have things like selling the product and a separate one for delivering it. So that would not work.
Yeah, but I think here I'm guessing now. I'm not saying that this is, but I see a lot of people get confused by the word product. This product in many organizations is just okay. Like for example, in internet service provider, you have a product for broadband, a product for TV, and you got like example, and you don't organize around those. It's the product as we deliver TV to people, we deliver something to people. That is the capability, not the specific products. If you get broadband 500 or broadband 115, that doesn't matter. It's the delivering of the broadband as a way of delivering connections to people. So that is the product.
Just to double check, earlier on we had a separate capability for sales. As a customer, I would not be interested in buying the product as such. I would be interested in actually getting the product then. So that would be one combined thing.
No, because sales would only handle the actual selling of the thing. They would hand it over to a different department when it comes to delivery. As I said, if you move up a level, the delivery of the service is a different capability, a top level capability.
But you're saying
but that's something I'm struggling with.
The business capability, right?
A recent telecom example that I worked with was also really involving sales and delivery. They were struggling with bringing a fast internet to those areas that don't have the quick cable connections because the houses are so dispersed.
So if you look at where I work at Exhibia, we have different cells, units, which you can call business capabilities. And we have a marketeer, we have a recruiter, but we also have 2 sales. We have 1 sale for consultancy and 1 sale for workshops.
Yeah, and they would probably
work. So that's what you're telling. We don't have one sales team. Each of these teams have a sales team that end-to-end responsible for selling the product, right?
Yeah, but you can immediately see the problem, of course, because you might want to sell workshops to support consultancy or the other way around, and you're less likely to do that when you want to go to this model.
Yeah.
So the ups and downs everywhere, and that's why I think to have a strong way of supporting the access that you have not chosen to be a primary one is always very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no.
But that would be a flaw in this.
Yeah,
maybe not a flaw, but
it is
something you decided on this capability. But
we
sales could be inside one of these business capabilities. Okay. That's what you said.
Yeah, but
preferably, right?
But this is a strategic decision that the company has. Like the example you have, I've seen it at the current company is probably telecom for the reason why. There is a disjoint between the sales and the delivery. Because the sales are just selling crazy, and the delivery is stuck with all this that people throw over the wall.
Yeah.
So they might, and there's actually a project
they need to be in sync, right?
Yeah. So there's a project going on trying to harmonize this.
Yeah.
And that could potentially end up that they say, okay, we're gonna join these two, or at least split them in a different way.
And that's where
then the company pivots, like they change their capabilities.
And then you come back to what says so in Accelerate, right? You want to have an organization structure to match your loosely coupled in your product teams.
Hold on. So you're saying that if you would actually do that, you would also rewrite what you consider to be the capabilities.
Your business had decided that they want to do these things differently.
Okay.
And
then my question is, what are we going to use to support the other axis? Because if you disperse sales across these value chain things, you still want these salespeople to have some consistency amongst them, and you still want to recognize these opportunities to combine and upsell. And we just talked about
it's a completely different scenario. And
there are trade-offs there.
Yes, and this is what Nick has written a brilliant blog post on. Is that there are different strategies that company have that can go across this, and you should keep those in mind. So this is not a panacea.
No, of course, but it is a good start towards your boundaries for DDD, right?
And I think it's a good start for your team. For a cross-functional team, at least as a start. You can see how it works, but it's a lot better than the classical layered things that you see in here and there. Yeah. Okay.
So maybe this is a question for you, Kenny, because you said within the context, I want the one team. That's supposed to
I want one team, preferably I want one team on a context, not two.
One team on a context.
Preferably.
Yeah. So to me, the main challenge is generally in how to bridge these gaps between the contexts, because the value chains always tend to do, and if they don't, that's probably why the company's near bankruptcy.
So
what's your answer
create silos again this way?
So in a way, yes. So what's your answer to bridging these context boundaries?
So
from an organizational perspective.
From an organization, but maybe more from a cultural perspective. So I'm reading this new book by Jitske called Jam. And she starts talking about we need boundaries as teams, as cultures. We always need boundaries, and how we deal with trading between each other, between the cultures, is sort of like a marketplace where you share goods, gods, love, anything that happened there. And I think a company, when they provide that one per team, they should provide knowledge sharing between these cultures and boundaries, and that's what you also don't see being used in silos, like more open space sharing in between, like what happened when you do she calls it specifically a party, right? So if we have a whole party of the whole business, then everyone comes together, is equal at the buffet table. Everyone just goes and everyone talks to each other, and there's where the coffee corner conversation is what they try to do with the new buildings, right? Where they cut through roofs to.
You're talking about a very specific bank here, I think.
No, there's more that did this.
Okay.
So just to bring people more together. So you need to create these marketplaces where people can share. So the coffee corner is one thing. But I think you need more rituals built in to do this.
Are you talking about the shallow silos concept, where you can work in a different specific context or whatever, but it's shallow, so you can get in and out of it at times? But you,
No,
belong here, but
you're
you
gonna
can step out and work.
No,
can
you're
go
gonna
back
stay.
again.
You're gonna go to the boundary and share with the other.
Okay, right. Okay.
To me, it
But
feels
also-
more. To me, from an agile perspective, it feels more like this is about transparency. You're making these boundaries very, very explicit. You're acknowledging them,
Yeah,
and therefore you're also acknowledging what needs to happen cross-boundary.
what's in and what's outside. And these boundaries are always, people aren't really good at boundaries by default, but we need to be more clear. I don't know.
Finding them or working with them or?
No, people are not good at putting boundaries. Have you ever put a boundary for yourself and you stepped over it? How many times has that happened?
Well, there are personal boundaries.
Personal boundaries. So culturally speaking, people aren't really good at creating boundaries for themselves. And here the same. So we need to create this
say no and all
mind model boundary. And that's, in my opinion, that's for me the boundary context.
Well, I suppose it reflects some experience you have when you started to talk across boundaries, where suddenly you're trying to be one huge happy family, and before you know it, that family is so that imaginary family is so big and unwieldy that it has no chance of ever happening. And we would be far better off if we said, well, you're my immediate tribe, as we love to call it now, and how do we interact with the tribe one floor up?
Yeah, exactly. And it's these rituals that we need to put in place, I think. So like the coffee corner is one step, but you need several rituals, visualization, transparency, as you said. I think that will be the key. And no matter how you build in, I think you still need this. Communication, right? We talked about it today. What do you do improving communication?
So in a sense, we're circling, it feels to me like we're circling how can we use these DDD and business capability concepts to basically support human nature.
This is structuring stuff. I mean, we like structures. Right?
It's
thriving structure.
Jitske Kramer, Jitske created a great book about the corporate tribe, where she says, well, we already solved this ages ago in different cultures, but not inside the concrete buildings yet, and we just rediscovering.
So I think all we start, what do we call it, on the context of business capabilities. This is nothing really new. This goes way back. Right. This is just a way of thinking of grouping stuff and putting things in neat boxes. And
but we're saying two things. We're saying we need the neat boxes because we need to think about how to cross the boundaries.
I think
so
we
need
if there's no
boundary crossing easier rather than leaving that all vague.
It shouldn't be.
So you need a boundary to be able to cross it.
Fences make good neighbors.
And then we can also, if you have the boundary, we can also identify ourselves because we know what's not inside.
Try thing. Shout out to Ruth Malan with their service design. It's all about boundaries. It is basically about boundaries.
What's in
and what's out.
Okay. I think this is a great conclusion.
Sounds
today. Thank you, Wim, for joining. Thank you, Trond, for joining. I hope you enjoyed, and there will be more coming up. In the meantime, you can always go to virtualddd.com, submit yourself. It's on the site. There's an email. You can send in something for yourself to discuss about, and we can just connect. And see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.